Make sure you always sand with the direction of the wood grain, paying extra attention to any knots and any rough edges. Once you are finished sanding, wipe the loose sawdust off your board and then take your bigger sponge brush, wet it, squeeze out any excess water, and just paint the board with the white paint. Okay, so now it's time to prep the stencil, and what you want to do is just want to give it a firm rub down all over the top of it. Don't worry about these little wrinkles in that top layer. Those are not to be concerned with. Just want to make sure that that top layer is stuck on well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over, and we have to remove this paper backing off of our adhesive stencil. So I'm going to start by peeling back this white layer. I want all the black to stay down, okay? So as I start to peel back, some of the little black pieces are going to try to lift up, and you want to go back and press that back down. Now, one way to help keep those pressed down as you peel it back is, you see how I'm pressing and I'm rolling this back at the same time. And so if I press as I pull, it helps keep those little bits and pieces of black stuck down where they're supposed to be. Sometimes I have to go back and repress them down. But we want this white sheet to come off clean. So you just want to take your time and slowly peel. Usually works best if you pull on the diagonal until this whole white sheet comes off clean. All right, so once you have the backing off your stencil, we have to apply it to the board. So before we flip it over, you just want to think about your positioning of the stencil. You got to remember you have to leave enough room at the top and bottom for your cutout pieces. So you want to, and sometimes this helps if you have two people to help you with this really long stencil, or one person to help you. I'm gonna lay it gently on the board. I don't want it to stick down yet until I get it right where I want it. Pretty much just centering it, leaving, you know, about 6 inches at the top and about 6 inches at the bottom. You can use the edge of your stencil as your guide to make sure that it's nice and straight. And once you've got it where you want it, you're gonna just press it down with your hands. Make sure it's stuck down real well. And then you're going to start to peel off that clear layer off the top. So again, same thing, I'm peeling from the corner and I'm just pulling it flat back. I'm not lifting. I don't want to lift the stencil off the board. I just want to peel this slowly back, making sure that all of my black parts of my stencil stay stuck down. All right, the next thing you're gonna need is your paper plate. You're gonna need, if you're following the colors as they're shown in the picture, you're gonna need your green, your red, and your black. Also, you're gonna need your little makeup wedges. We gave you multiples. If you end up needing, if you use up all of them and you need another one for some reason, you can always trim off the used end and you have a brand new makeup wedge. So I'm gonna start with black since that is the first color. I'm gonna pour a little bit out onto my plate. Doesn't take much paint to do this at all. And then I'm going to take my little makeup sponge. I hold it from the top. I dab with this squared off edge, and I am going to show you guys how to start dabbing on with the stencil. The biggest, most important thing is you want to use thin, light coats with a light dabbing technique. The key is you don't want to goop on a lot of paint and push hard and wipe and swipe, because you don't want paint to bleed under your stencil. You want nice crisp lines. So I'm going to dip into the paint, and then I'm going to blot it off like 5 times so that there's barely a trace of paint left. And I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to lightly dab this black paint on. Now it's going to require at least 2 coats, sometimes even a third, just depends on how lightly you dabbed. But I'm just gonna, since I've got the black going, I'm just gonna keep going with anything that should be black. So every time you dip in, you blot off, and I'm just gonna go in and finish dabbing all of the black. Once I'm done with my first coat on all the black, I could go start right back over at the top and do my second coat on the black, because this paint does dry really fast. You want to use a little extra care if you have an area where there's like a knot like along the edge, or a rough groove or a crack in the wood. That's a place that paint could bleed underneath your stencil. So if you do have any imperfections somewhere along the edge of a letter, just use a little extra care to just do very light dabbing. Once you've done 2 complete coats of each color and let it completely dry, just take a peek at it, see if you need to touch up any spots that look a little light. I pretty much did a 3rd coat almost on everything, except for the black was just a light touch up. But the red and the green, I ended up doing about a 3rd coat. Once everything's completely dry, you've got enough coats on there, you're happy with the coverage, then you're going to peel off your stencil. So you're just gonna peel it from the corner. It's gonna come off in chunks and pieces, and that's totally normal. It's not going to come off in one nice, neat and tidy piece. And also you've got this push pin that should have came in your kit that's going to help you pick away any of the leftover pieces of vinyl, like in the center of the O here. I'm just going to gently lift underneath that little piece of vinyl that's left behind and peel that out. Just gonna weave the twine around the tree, a little bit of the glue on the back to help hold it in place. Once you finish gluing on your cutout pieces, your sign should be ready and done. The last thing I would recommend is you can seal it with a clear coat. I usually use polyacrylic spray, use it in a well-ventilated area. Anywhere that they sell spray paint cans, they'll sell polyacrylic. I usually use a matte finish. That's my own personal preference. You don't have to seal it, but it does help protect it from any dirt and grime. And if you do put it outside, I definitely recommend sealing it every year. So thank you so much and enjoy your new sign.